I'm Bryce Knorr, Senior Editor of Farm Futures Magazine. Welcome to The Buzz for Friday, February 21st, 2013. What's black and white and red all over? My trading screen after today's sell-off in many contracts. Market analyst Paul Bergner joins me to go over the latest in a week that may be short but not dull. USDA provided much of the grist for the mill today when the agency's chief economist, Joe Glauber, spoke at the first day of the annual Outlook Conference in Washington. The presentation included some updates to USDA's first statistical forecast for 2013 crops, and the price outlook wasn't good. Let's start with corn. While the agency's acreage forecast is lower than some at 96.5 million acres, it will still produce a record crop of 14.5 billion bushels. Ethanol demand would be slow to rebound, dropping the average cash price to just $4.80. March corn was backpedaling from Wednesday's close above $7 before that news broke, and it took a while for the sellers to emerge. When they did, prices fell towards the $6.90 level, important because that's a key strike price for March options, which stopped trading on Friday. Ethanol production did pick up 8,000 barrels a day in the latest week, thanks to stronger processor margins, but overall there's little other demand dues to support buying right now. Basis in the cash market continues to firm, however, because farmers are holding tight. Paul, the corn market needs a dose of good news. Is it going to get it anytime soon?
Boy, I just don't see it right now. The market looks to me like there's an awful lot of built up maybe bad news in there. Export numbers are not good, and we're not seeing much there that's pulling anything that way. We picked up some moisture in the western corn belt in the snowstorm that's moving through there right now, helping a little bit with some planting intentions and such on that end. Really, I think the next big number that might come and help us out will be that feed use number that comes at the end of March. It may be that far out before we get any really good news for this corn market. It seems to be trading in a fairly narrow range, but anything that really wants to pull it up, it's going to be kind of hard to find, I think, right now.
Well, USDA's news for wheat didn't have much new to it. The agency said average cash prices for the 2013 crop would slide to $7, but the drop would be much less than for corn or soybeans. In fact, the agency's forecast for 2013 production was cut substantially, down to just 2.1 billion bushels, which is only 60 million above my own forecast at the moment. Still, wheat prices got hammered today, making new 7-month lows at all three exchanges. A major winter storm brought much-needed precipitation to some dry parts of the plains, but the forecast looking forward isn't very promising at all. Not only are 2-week forecasts dry, but longer-term outlooks released today show warmer and drier conditions emerging across the plains. Some of today's downturn appeared to be options-related in Chicago, and heavy deliveries could be seen next week in soft red winter wheat, where wheat is cheaper than corn in Toledo, where almost 25 million bushels are stored. Paul, is this storm helping out the wheat crop much on the plains? And do you think prices can turn higher soon?
Well, I think the storm will obviously help some. We are desperate for moisture in this part of the world, and so we'll take everything we can get. It did hit some of the key areas: Oklahoma, Kansas, some places that really where wheat is produced pretty heavily. Out on the western edge where I'm at, we got almost nothing. The interesting thing, though, is even as much as we saw in this storm, the numbers are probably maybe 10 to 15 to 25% of the deficit gets made up by this big storm. And once we get through another storm coming this weekend, we don't see much moisture in the forecast out there, and it's still not good news for this wheat crop. It's really struggling. I think if there's an opportunity for prices to really roll up, it'll be as this crop breaks dormancy and we see how much of it really did not survive. And if it's as bad as some of the folks are saying, it really could be some issues. Locally, we're starting to see some discussion about fairly heavy weed pressure in this poor wheat crop, and guys are going to have to make some very difficult decisions. Do I spend money on weed control on a crop that I'm concerned is not going to be there? So we've got some issues coming, but prices are maybe going to come up as we see whether or not there's any wheat out there.
Soybeans were the one bright spot in the market today. March gained only a nickel by the close, but that was a major achievement given the bearish atmosphere pervading the market for much of the session. The selling in corn and wheat accelerated when the stock market opened, and pressure on Wall Street kept up for most of the day. Bad news about growth in Europe, coupled with heavy selling again in crude oil, sent risk takers scurrying from most markets. The news from Washington wasn't any better for soybeans either. USDA forecasts a huge 3.4 billion bushel crop and average cash prices of just $10.50 a bushel. To be sure, that was one reason why November beans were down a dime today, but traders continue to focus on old crop. USDA announced another sale of old crop beans this morning, and the news from South America still suggests problems shipping out the crop onto the world market in a timely fashion. March soybeans took a run at $15 earlier in the week, but options bunched at that strike price could cap the market until they expire. Well, can prices get over that hurdle, do you think, Paul?
I think we'll keep pushing at that hurdle and keep trying to get there. It'll be interesting to see whether we can get there. I think that bad news out of South America just continues to roll in, and if we do see an opportunity, it's going to be because export buyers are staying in our market, picking up some of those beans that they're just uncomfortable getting out of South America right now, and that will be the thing that will bump us up over that as we head towards the planning intentions report in the end of March. So there's an opportunity there, but it's going to have to take additional bad news coming out of South America.
Well, thanks, Paul. You'll be speaking across Nebraska next week while I'm headed to Orlando for Commodity Classic. So there should be plenty to talk about on the next edition of The Buzz.